Hey guys, it's Nick here, back from Sessions Motorsports, and today we wanted to talk to you about old number 7, this beautiful JKU. We're out in Moab, Utah. Take a look at how beautiful this place is. So this JK is a pretty special Jeep. We like to think all the Jeeps we build are pretty special, but I think once you see this thing, you will hopefully agree with us. Let's go ahead and we'll start at the front like we always do, guys, and we'll talk about this Jeep. So up front on this Jeep, let's start right here with the winch. It has a comp worn 9RC winch that we've relocated the controller for better airflow, and you can see that it's sunk down into this custom frame chop bumper that we built for this thing. In a minute here, we'll take a look at the approach angle and we'll talk a little bit more about this bumper, but let's take a look at the front axle on this thing. So the front axle on this Jeep is a high pinion Dana 60 with solid knuckles. It runs a chromoly axle shaft, a CTM U-joint, an ARB air locker, and 538 ring and pinion. It has a PSC, of course, painted to match double-ended ram, full hydro with the 7075 aluminum tie rods. You can also see the anti-rock sway bar, and again, the approach on this front bumper. Here's the 188-wall bash bar to protect the steering. And if we look at this thing from the side, we can kind of take a look at the approach angle that this Jeep has with that bumper and that frame chop. So you can see just how far back we chopped the frame and how close it is into the grill and how low we have that winch sucked down in there, again, for the approach angle. So on the front of this thing, it runs a Curry anti-rock sway bar, again with custom 7075 billet aluminum end links on here, just to keep up with the detail. Also, you'll notice in this thing that the frame has been completely powder coated. So it's a beautiful charcoal silver color. I don't know the exact color, but it's very, very pretty as you look through here. Again, just all about the detail. It runs a King 2.5 race series 14-inch stroke coilover with, of course, gold powder coated springs. It runs a Fox 2.0 air bump stop with 2 inches of travel, 2-inch diameter. The tire and wheel package on this, let's go ahead and take a look on the other side and we'll take a look at the tire and wheel package on this thing. So this has the classic 40 Nitto trail gopper. These are one of the best all-around tires for like multi-use. They work really good in the sand, they drive really nice on the road, and they work really good on the rocks, and they're very soft and pliable for a DOT tire. So these are an awesome tire. And then, of course, my personal favorite wheel, this has a classic Walker Evans wheel that's powder coated the gold with the blue ring to match the rest of the Jeep. If you kind of look inside the fender in here, you can kind of see that relocated winch controller there. And again, another view of the passenger side shock. This runs an Odyssey PC925 lightweight battery. JKs are very heavy, and we tried to keep the weight down wherever we could. Next up, let's take a look at the front suspension. Okay guys, so for the suspension on this Jeep, it's got a pretty awesome suspension, especially for a JK. So there's nothing about this Jeep that is a bolt-on lift kit or, you know, a run-of-the-mill put-together bolt-on Jeep. This is a 100% custom-built frame-off with buggy-style geometry with Sessions Motorsports double triangulated 4-links front and rear. So if you look down here, it has the 7075 lower aluminum links and the 7075 upper links. You can kind of check out that truss on the front axle and part of the engine skid. For the rod ends, we use Summit machine joints on the lowers and FK bearings on the uppers. The limit straps, you can see that it's set up with double limit straps. This thing there's some footage in this video, you guys will see this thing runs through the bumps really good. It's had a lot of time spent on the shock valving. And so if you look close at those limit straps though, you can see that wire going into the center of them. That's for the factory ABS sensors, and we actually had Twisted Stitch sew a sleeve in the limit straps, and the wires run down through the strap so they're always protected to pull a sleeve on that. Okay, so for body armor on this rig, it uses a Poison Spider front narrowed fender. We started with a Poison Spider blank on the rockers. So this was just a Poison Spider skin kit, and then we built the rocker on this. This is all 250 wall with a solid rod on the bottom that actually protects the pinch seam, and it's tied in, you can see, in multiple spots down there. The back is also a Poison Spider rear fender. And then this is a Poison Spider corner guard also on the back of this with the flush mount LEDs that you'll see in a second. The back suspension on this Jeep is just as cool as the front suspension. So if you look in here, the frame has been completely redone and clearanced and notched to give the shock the proper room it needs away from the tire, but also at the proper angle for the right shock geometry to work. In the back, it uses a 2.5 by 16-inch race series King coilover. Again, with a Curry anti-rock sway bar. It has the same Fox 2.0 air bumps that are hidden up inside there. And if you go down and take a look at the front of the axle, you can see the same double triangulated suspension with the 70-75 links with the Summit machine joints, and the same FK rod ends on the 70-75 links on the uppers. It uses a shaved 14-bolt rear axle with an ARB air locker, 538 gears, and 300M axle shafts. I'm sorry, chromoly axle shafts in this one. Okay, so on the back view of this 14-bolt, you can see how we've tied the truss into the diff cover for extra support. Again, this is a Barnes four-wheel drive diff cover. You can see it's got the disc brake kit on it and that same 70-75 aluminum sway bar end links with the FK rod ends. Also in here, this is a Genrite gas tank that we put in this thing to get the 4-link capable and to get the subframe design that we wanted with the full belly wrap, which we'll talk about in just a second. The back bumper on this Jeep's pretty cool. This is a pretty custom, again, frame chop as narrow as we could to get the bumper in. It's tight and protects the body really well. It's got some abuse on it and adds a nice step for getting in and out of the back. These are a good view of the Poison Spider flush mounted corners with the flush mounted LEDs and the reverse lights. Let's go ahead and we'll take a look at the roll cage on this thing and we'll talk about that. So this is a custom cage that we built at Sessions Motorsports with a custom 1/8-inch thick 50-52 aluminum hardtop roof that goes all the way to the windshield frame and incorporates it. This cage is all 2-inch DOM with 1 3/4 DOM lacing. The shocks come through the body to allow the 16-inch travel shocks and the ride height this has and to get the up travel. This Jeep is built to go fast and to rock crawl. And so it's set up with a 14 and a 16. And for reference, most coilover JKs you see out there on the road have either a 10 and a 12 or a 12 and a 14 combo shock. And so there is some sacrifices like coming up through the body you got to make to get that shock. But this thing has the full wheel travel of a 16-inch travel shock in the front and the back and a 14-inch travel shock in the front. So the engine in this thing is pretty special. So let's go up and we'll take a look at the motor. So for the engine in this thing, we obviously couldn't lease the V6 in this. This Jeep is a 2009, by the way, so it had the 3.8. They're pretty anemic. So this has a 6.1 Hemi out of a 2011 Challenger. It's the 425 horsepower version. You can also see packaging is at a premium. To get the shocks up through here, we had to relocate everything. So you can see the shocks sticking up through here with a custom shock hoop setup, wiggled in between all the rest of the stuff. It runs ARBs front and rear, and so the compressor for the lockers is actually hidden in here in the air box. So it's got, here's the full PSC system. It uses an AEV harness kit, so it's got a full AEV harness kit on it. And next we'll talk about the transmission and the transfer case. All right, guys, so for the transmission in this thing, it is the Chrysler 545 RE, and it runs a 3.8 Atlas transfer case. Some of the detail under here, there's an engine skid that you can see that's lined with a 1/2-inch UHMW. And then for the skid plate on this thing, it has a full belly. That's pretty cool about this Jeep with the subframe setup. And so you can see it's got some use on it, but the skid plate, it has a 3/16 mild steel backer with the 1/2-inch UHMW. From this angle, you can also see that the frame is tied to the the roll cage is tied to the frame in multiple spots on this Jeep. Again, just for safety and how the Jeep's used. So again, on the back, you can kind of see those twin limit straps with the ABS wires going through them and down into the back. Toner rings made on the axle. It's got 1350 drive lines, front and rear. And you can kind of see that subframe in the back with the Atlas is way up in there. So for the interior of this Jeep, because of the JK's functionality and comfort, we chose to left the interior pretty simple in this thing. So eventually it's going to get some custom cat skin seat covers, but they're just so functional. The windshield wipers, the radio, the AC, the heat, everything just works so nice. They're so comfortable. They drive so well. So we decided to stick with that. This does have the B-pillar delete, which we did just again for vulnerability. And again, this is just another cool angle of the full custom cage. It's got Vision X rock lights, which we actually use for the dome lights. I'm going to peek in here, and if you look down here, one cool trick that this Jeep has that's pretty unique to this Jeep is if you see these two handles right here, these are turning brakes instead of the e-brake. So this controls the rear right, this controls the rear left, and this is the Atlas, obviously the Atlas JK shifter kit for this thing with the billet knobs. But the turning brakes on this thing make this thing super fun, which you'll see some of that footage in the rest of this video. All right, guys, so that is a short and sweet video on this beautiful JKU that we built a little bit ago for a great guy. The purpose of this Jeep, it's one of the things that makes it so cool is the guy that owned this, he had a buggy that we had built before. And then as his family grew, the buggy obviously didn't have the room he needed. And so the next logical choice was this JK. So it was a bone stock 2009 JK X. And we took it to here. And the way the direction this build went was this guy, after owning this buggy, he kind of didn't want to compromise on all of the capabilities the buggy had. Can this be as capable as a full-blown competition-built tube chassis? It's not that capable, but it's a very, very capable machine that literally does everything. It's something you can grab your family and go out to dinner in. It's something you can drive down the highway in. It rips in the bumps, which you guys are going to see in the video, and it crawls really, really good. This Jeep is so much fun to drive. It's super stable. It rides like a Cadillac. We've spent a ton of time on the shocks and a ton of tuning, and it's built with our Sessions Motorsports detail that we put in every rig. Like I said before, these rigs are expensive and they're a lot of work to build these cars, and so we're going to go above and beyond every opportunity that we have to show off what we're capable of and put the detail in these rigs as you guys deserve it. These rigs they're just awesome machines, and I love each and every one of them. They all have a story and they all have a purpose and they all have a reason. And like always, this is tailor built to the guy that we built it for and for his needs. And not to toot our horn, but we knocked this one out of the park. This Jeep's sweet. So I hope you guys like it. If you like the footage, we got more coming as always. Subscribe, and we'll see you next time.